Well, hello to everybody, and everybody, hello, and welcome to Making Sales Social Live, brought to you by Social Sales Link. I'm Bob Woods, the LinkedIn Sherpa, and I'm joined as always by fellow LinkedIn and social selling professional, who is also known as the LinkedIn Whisperer, Brynne Tillman. Brynne, how you doing today?
Good, Bob. How are you? I'm having a fun Monday. This has already been a sparkling kind of day. So I'm looking
It's
forward to continuing the happiness with our conversation today.
Yeah, let's absolutely do this. So, as they say, and we never know who they are, but as they say, content is king. And actually, it really does apply here because if you're into social selling, you know content, you use content.
Mhm.
Content is what gets conversations started and contributes to conversations as they go on within the buying and the selling process. Buyers use content in researching their potential purchase decisions in many cases before we, as salespeople, even know they're in the market for our products or services. That's why we're talking content today. So, with this with this podcast episode, we have an ebook that accompanies it. It's at socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. That again is socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. So, overall, there are three types of content. So, pieces that you use at the top of the funnel, which goes back to what I was talking about before when they're researching you before you even know they're researching you. Then, mid funnel, these are the pieces that you use when you're talking to people, but reinforce what you're saying. And then at the end of the sales cycle, which can also even be used post sale if you want to as well. So, top of the funnel, we have two main pieces. Let's talk about those,
Mhm.
Brent. First of all, is content before their need, as we call it.
So this is a huge opportunity when we're looking at the top of the funnel, when we're looking at starting new conversations with new people. And this was a concept I learned many years ago from David Newman. And he talked about you need to engage them before they know they need you.
Right.
So, so that you can start the conversation with them and that you're the one who's educating them and leading them to the next step. So, for example, if we're talking about prospecting on LinkedIn, maybe a lot of the content we're talking about is getting started on LinkedIn or how to connect with the right people on LinkedIn because that's what they're doing before they're prospecting, potentially. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but what I want you to look at is what's happening before they need you. Who are they buying from? What content are they researching a stage before you? Another example is if you are recruiting people. So you're talking about, and you're looking to bring on, let's say, new salespeople. The content, they may not be actively searching for positions, but if your content talks about what a good culture is, you'll start to attract the right people, even if they're not looking for a job right now. There are lots of different examples that we can give around this, but the bottom line is we need to attract them where they are. And if we attract them too late, there's a good chance they've already done their research, as Bob mentioned. They've already identified 3 or 4 or 5 companies like you that, when they are ready for your solution. So if you're engaging with them early on, chances are they're not going to shop you nearly as well, as much.
Yep. So the next one we have is content that creates curiosity and gets prospects thinking differently about their current situation. Because if they're not thinking differently about their current situation, why are they going to buy anything if they're thinking that, let's just keep doing what we're doing and everything is going to be fine? You need to create curiosity with it. So there are many different ways that you can do that. And again, this is before they even reach out and speak with you, because this is especially the type of content when they're researching, they're looking probably to think differently about what they're doing right now.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to really engage them on, as Bob said, thinking differently. So, content for social selling typically includes 5 elements. The first one is that it resonates with your buyer, that they are, they, they immediately see it and say, this is written for me. So it might be 3 challenges CEOs are facing around X, Y, and Z. And I go, oh, I'm a CEO and I'm facing this challenge. So that's resonate. The next one that Bob mentioned is create curiosity. You've got them to go, you've got to get them to lean in and go, ooh, that's interesting. Then you need to teach them something new. Now, teaching them something new creates you as a thought leader and a subject matter expert. The next piece that Bob mentioned is what you teach them needs to get them thinking differently about their current situation. And you are spot on, Bob, with this, because if we teach them something new, but they're still okay with their current vendor, then why would they even talk to us, let alone buy from us? But you're right. When they start to think of it differently and they're reframing their situation in a way that they go, boy, we do have gaps. How come I don't have that? I'm really curious. When you get to that level, then you get to number 5, which is it creates a compelling moment. We move them from a lurker to an engager. We get them to comment, react, connect with us, view our profile. It creates a compelling moment. And when we create those compelling moments, we can start the sales conversation. And that's what's really critical in what we're talking about today. These top of the funnel, these top of the funnel pieces need to create those compelling moments, because our goal is to start conversations with the right people. And if we're not starting conversations and we're just putting out content and no one is engaging, or few people, or the wrong people, then it's not content for the sales funnel. It's content for content's sake. You are muted. Yeah.
I was
Oh,
coughing before. Sorry about that. Didn't want
no
to cough in
worries.
people's ears and stuff like that. So now that the top of the funnel content has done its job and you've done your job and you're
Mhm.
talking, having sales conversations with the prospect, they're in your funnel. So let's talk about mid funnel content. So there's actually several different pieces that we can talk about here. We'll go through them quickly. One is content that offers social proof or case stories. Now, notice how I didn't say case studies. These are case stories because no one can relate to a case study. When you're when you're telling a story about someone who has benefited from your product, people can relate a lot more to that, especially when the person whose story you're telling about is in the same position or the same industry or whatever as the person who is. So the person who's reading it is the same as the person who's the story being told about, and that could be told in social proof as well, Brynne.
Yeah, and not all content is necessary for the news feed.
Right.
This type of content I see more as an inbox play to follow up on a conversation that you've already had. Maybe it's on your profile as social proof. I wouldn't share too many of these on your homepage because it may come across as bragging, and here, and so you want to make sure that all the content you're sharing is of value. So I'm going to share, to Bob's point, the case story is so much more valuable than a simple study. And the reason is, done well, what you're implementing inside of that case story are actual actionable things. Things that when the reader absorbs it, when they consume it, to Bob's point, they're relating to that, and they can take that content and even start leveraging it in their own business. Now, obviously, we're not giving away everything. That's never our goal. And I know we'll get a whole bunch of pushback from people that says, don't give it all away. But we actually come from a place of, to Michael Port's quote, give away so much value that you're afraid you gave away too much, and
Yep.
then give more. That's
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
camp we're in, right? So look up Michael and Amy Port. They're amazing humans. But that's where we're coming from. So that case story should also be a great benefit
Mhm.
to the reader. Even if they never talk to you, you
Yep.
want them to get that value. And that's how you start to build that reputation.
Yep. So before we get to the next one, Stephen Farber says, great ebook. He just downloaded it. That's fantastic. Love to hear it. Again, it's at socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. Let me get that back up. Not that one, that one. There we go. Again,
Woohoo!
that's socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. So the next piece that we're going to talk about is content that specifically overcomes objections, because I mean, no one gets objections, right?
No one ever.
Yeah, no
So
one
this,
ever gets objections.
I love this. And we've talked about this for years and years and years when um, we hear, our clients, we're getting these objections, whether it's a price objection, a value objection, whatever it might be. And we no longer teach sales training. So I'm thinking, how do we solve this problem for them in a way that's around social selling? And really, it comes back to content. So when you hear an objection from a prospect, write down your solution, and create content around that. Now, not only are you prepared when someone has that objection, but when you start kind of planting those seeds in content, you're moving them toward your solution. So, for example, I don't know if you guys have ever read the book. I think it's Spin Selling or Solution Selling. I'm mixing them. No, I think it was Solution Selling. And they talked about like this grocery store that had all the bells and whistles, but they didn't have someone that took your groceries to the car. So, people would say, well, why didn't you do that? It's a choice that they made based on whatever they made. So their content would be about all the innovation and steer away, why you want to place with all this innovation and what innovation can do for X, Y, and Z, and talk about what really matters that separates you out. So just think of those objections. So if their objection is, you don't have someone to help me to my car, be prepared as why, with why you've made your choices, so that when that objection comes up, you're ready, or you've overcome the objection before they ever even have it,
Right. Or able to
or
voice it.
verbalize it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. That's fantastic. The next point is, or the next type, I should say, is content that gives you a competitive edge. Ooh, like that. Like the sound of that.
Yeah. So there's so many things that you can do around this. And the competitive edge is really finding out what you do that no one else does. Like really plant those seeds. So, for example, if we are the only social selling membership site where you actually get one-on-one coaching, we would talk about how important the one-on-one coaching is. If you are the only print shop that in your neighborhood, that actually delivers you don't pay for shipping and we have free delivery, then that's what you focus on. And you talk about why that is critically important when you are making a decision on what printer to use.
Yep.
So when you educate them, you can also plant seeds. So if we're talking about where we get a competitive edge, but if you know what your competitor doesn't do, you can talk about the risks of doing business that with someone that doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Now, these are typically not things that we what we put on our news feed. This is content that Bob uses and I use in Smart Links, which is a sales navigator piece, or to send individually, or to send a PDF individually. We were chatting. I wanted to follow up with this content. So the end of the sales funnel is typically not things that we share publicly. Again, however, we can put this in the featured section and other places on the profile to get that edge.
Yep. And one other thing that I literally just thought of, it totally forgotten about it back when I sold for a business coach. When it comes to competitive edge and things that people do versus people that don't do, if there's something in your industry that everyone does, but A, you do it well, and B, no one else in the industry talks about. So everyone does it, but nobody talks about it. And yet you do it well, you actually talk about it. And then if a competitor comes up and says, well, we do that too, they don't look as great just because you brought it up first.
Oh, that's great. I love the off the cuff stuff.
Yep. So our next one, and this next piece actually could be used at the end of the sales cycle too, but we're going to concentrate on mid funnel here, is content that helps your buyers sell you internally. Because let's face it, you aren't able to talk to buyers, the other buyers, that other 6.8 or 5.8 people at that point who are making, well, no, it would be 6.8 minus the person that you're already talking to. So it's the other 5.8 at that point.
You're so good. That's so true.
Yeah. So the other 5.8.
Let me just 2 seconds. So in the study, in the challenger customer,
Right,
that they identified on average there are 6.8 decision makers on every large sale. So go ahead, Bob. I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah. So hopefully at some point you'll be able to get to talk to those 5.8 other decision makers. But this type of piece will definitely help you smooth the road in terms of in terms of speaking, quote unquote, to those people directly, even though you're not talking to them. This content piece will at least get these other buyers knowing that you are thinking about these other buyers and the other various positions that they're in. You're versed about their concerns, and what you do can help them out as well as the overall company and the initial person who's bringing this up in the first place.
So I love it. So I'll just use, for example, let's say you're in marketing, you're in sales, your finance is touched, procurement is touched. What you want to do is create content written for each of those buyers. You want to create, whether it's a checklist or something, because they all have a different reason. So for example, I'm going to use us because I know, right? So we will typically start with sales leadership. But we generally need to get marketing buy-in. So the content for the marketing is 5 ways to get your employees to amplify the content you've created. Now, sales doesn't care about that. Sales cares about the 10 ways to use LinkedIn to start new conversations. Finance might talk about the most economical way to amp up your sales team's efforts, right? So when all of these things you do, but each of your stakeholders have different intent. They have a different why. And so when you can create those pieces of content, your champion, the person you're talking to that's helping you out, can use that content to start conversations with the other people you would like to invite to the next meeting. And then they can see why. So great. That's a great one, Bob.
Yep. And then now we're going to talk about the end of the sales cycle or post-sale cycle, however you want to view it. And this is good because this pushes for more business. So content that helps you to cross-sell other products into whether it's other products you have or maybe into other departments within the same company, as well as cross solving. So solving other problems that your product can solve for these companies as well beyond the initial problem that they brought you in for, which is
Yeah, and
big.
that absolutely is big. And I think Jack Hubbard calls it cross solving. So I love that. I think that's brilliant because we're really in there solving other problems. And a lot of times we've talked about the land and expand model, right? You sell
Mhm.
them what they want that you can solve well and then expand afterwards. Some of that, which goes to Bob's point of the last one, helping them sell you internally, it may be that you're selling different things to other departments. So that's why that last one Bob mentioned could go both in the middle of the funnel and post funnel. And the other piece is really listen through the sales cycle, and you can open that conversation with I heard, I'm glad that this is going well. Launch went fine. You guys are happy. I heard a couple other gaps that you may have that I'd be happy to talk to you about solutions. Are you open? Bob, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, going in, especially with a product that or product or service that is really multi-departmental or something like that. I think I want to say or
Cross
something like that.
departmental.
Cross departmental, I like that even better. Yeah, so I mean, getting your foot in the door is key, and a lot of people make a lot of money getting into the door and then having, with those content pieces and with the relationships that you're either building or have already built, you can get into other departments much easier rather than trying to start something all over again with a new company. If you have that kind of product and you sell into
Mhm.
those types of companies, it's golden.
Yeah, perfect example for us is I had sold TD Bank locally in the Philadelphia region and worked with them for years, and then got an introduction into the Washington D.C.
Hmm.
Area, right? And so that's that kind of land and expand
Yep.
option. But one thing I want to throw in here is you have to earn the right to do that.
Yes.
Don't ask for more business until you've mastered the business they've bought from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that is a great place to end up, except to mention again the ebook, which is socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. That address again is socialsaleslink.com socialsaleslink.com/funnel content. You can download that and use it on your own. You can download that and use it as an accompaniment to this episode, however you want to use it. We hope that you find it very valuable and because we hope it delivers a lot of value for you. So,
And I'm
yes.
just going to throw in, make sure you comment and like and even share it with other people, because this ebook is actually connected to Bob's post. So, share it around. I really think it's a valuable one that many
Share and
people,
share alike.
yeah, that, social sellers can really get value from.
Absolutely, and I would appreciate that as well. So with that, thanks again for joining us on Making Sales Social Live today. If you're with us here live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter right now, we do this every week, so keep an eye out for our live sessions. If you're listening to us on our podcast, so the recorded version of this, in other words, and you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click that subscribe, follow button, whatever it is on whatever you're listening to us on, and you'll be able to access all of our previous shows and be alerted when new ones drop. Going to throw one more URL at you. If you'd like more on the podcast, go to socialsaleslink.com/podcast. That's socialsaleslink.com/podcasts. We actually podcast, singular podcast. We do 2 shows weekly, this one and our Making Sales Social interview series, where we talk with leaders and experts in sales, marketing, business, and many more areas. So when you're out and about, be sure to make your sales
social. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.